Well, hello there, everyone. Here, show you right here is test ready, and basically this activity right here basically shows like what I would put together right here on Illustrator, and taught by say for government classes though is that I'm sure that most of us here have had that type of a government or civics type class, like I mentioned before, and what this activity right here basically talks about is to where for being tested, and if anybody were to be wondering about that yeah, that for test ready, that we may know that there's going to be a test at some point during the week, or maybe by the next week, or maybe by the following month or some kind. But then we're like, Warren, to where are we ready? I'm like, well, I've been studying, and on the other hand too, I'm not sure, but then I'll go ahead and give it a try, see how it is. And but on the other hand, that more like Warren, to where the type of answer that more likely that they expect is to where that really, I'm like, could they maybe expect that know all the answers, or just by, it's like you say, if we want to call it like maybe that the pop quiz, like a pre-test, to where if they give you a test, and it may just be a little bit different, compared to the study guide, in which we know that taking tests, that sometimes that they may time you for how long that you had to complete the test, and they may even offer to read it to you, read the questions to you. But then on the other hand, it's like, yeah, multiple test questions, stuff like that. So I know a few tests you may actually think that yeah, that a few of them that are pretty complicated, even though if it's multiple choice, all you have to do is just select A, B, and C right here. They ask you a question, and then whatever that fits the answer, and then more likely that if I say within 4 seconds, you should be able to get through the test, especially if it's going to be asking you at least 25, maybe 100 questions. That that this reminds me of the class that I remember on my freshman year in high school, that I can remember taking government class, and I can remember that was one of the hardest subjects I can remember, besides key typing, learning how to use the keyboard. That was another subject. This government class was another subject that was pretty complicated, and I kept thinking about. I'm like, there are some subjects that maybe we have not taken or to graduate. I know a few of them that I've heard of, but I never took them. Like if it's going to be calculus or algebra, or if it's chemistry, or any type of history or something like that. Any type of science courses, but a lot of times we wonder to where, what do you call it, to where that that maybe the schools that they did not require you to take that subject just because somebody else may have. And just thinking about, I'm like, yeah, there's going to be somebody who may have been homeschooled, that they were homeschooled for about 3 years until they decided to go back to school, and they were not used to everything, such as for how they test you and what you need to have for your books and supplies and stuff like that. Of course, that'll be coming up in August, I guess, whenever school comes back in session. That you're like thinking about like a lot of things that they have, that for going back to school, sales and stuff like that. But anyway, but you see right here is that we have put together right here is like example right here of like of a test. And at top I say for to name the three basic rights. One could be right to vote, and then for to speak, and then the other one to own land of some sort. But let's just say that the three basic rights, and I'm like wondering to where that there could be about maybe five altogether, but then just knowing about the three, for the basic. But number 4 and 5, could be is like your right to carry, a permitted license, with you at all times, and in a way that handle a birth certificate. So a lot of the stuff which I know, they probably say that you have to be at least 17, 18 years old just to qualify for a lot of those rights. But you know, and I know that anybody probably say, well, does that include like, say, any other the other stuff? But on your hand, that you talk about right here, for the three basic rights, one of those could be it's like for the right to vote and the right to own land, but then the other one could be it's like about a car though. I'm like, yeah, that if you're gonna be maybe 16 and in school, and let's just say that I know some drivers, they may have it to where that some drivers, they get their license right whenever they're 16, and they'll be tested on something like this, and you're like one to where that gives the rights to where if you're going to have a car, and then it's like thinking about like the three basic, one of those rights could be it's like to where for whose ever names, and as well as for managing with the insurance, stuff like that. So we're like warned to we're on the insurance policy. What does it say about the rights or something like that on that? But talk about say for government though is that we may think necessarily to where any government a test that based on is to where that if it's going to be the state of you know Kansas or Missouri or New York, or if it's going to be Florida or Texas or California or some state like that, to where you're going to have like the Missouri constitutional or the Kansas or Nebraskans, constitutional test or something like that. So we're thinking about it is like for 100 questions, twice the size of the document, the forms that need to be complete, 25 pages, and it's like with the files, and I'm sure that'll get anybody nervous. So you're like warned to where that test ready is something you're not looking forward to. And the thing about it is like whenever you're going to be in the classroom, you're thinking about, I'm like, yeah, the other people that are around you that they get through they get through about maybe 4 or 5 questions within 10 seconds. So you're like thinking about 10 seconds seems so soon. It's like thinking about you're trying to remember the answer to this and the answer to that. And sometimes it seems like to where you're like, oh, come on. So it seems like to where other students in the classroom, if they're working ahead of you, it may seem like to that point to where that, hey, I'm like, well, what's wrong with you? Snap out of it. But at the same time, that the way I think about it, though, is really that, yeah, that, I've been to that point, but then I usually think about is to where that, mainly concentrate is like for, reviewing the answer, reviewing the question and trying to think about what the answer was. And I'm sure anybody probably think about is like, yeah, if you're going to be in a quiet room, and then it's more likely they'll be able to concentrate that within 10 seconds. And like I say, somebody asks you a question, and then they want you to answer you 10 seconds, 10 seconds for who's willing to call it the answer. Hey, you're doing well. After about 5 minutes, and then let's just say if you get about 7 questions right, just like on like a trivia game or some sort, you're doing very well. You get about maybe 7 of them right. You get a point. So you're like one to where a lot of the aggravation seems to come to where that if you get about maybe 3 or 4 of them wrong within about 3 minutes. So anybody more likely think is to where if this was a test and thinking about what our reactions are going to be like to whenever if we get a certain amount of them wrong within a certain amount of time, within 4 minutes, it's like oh, time's up, like ding ding ding, okay. But on the other hand, that talk say for test ready is that really I'm like, how do we know when we need to give each other a pat on the back? Really, it's thinking about you have right here these stickers of the smiley faces right here. I know the teachers. That I remember back in earlier years that they used to do that. If you did pretty well on there, that they would put a sticker on a test and say, "Good job," a score of an 85 or a 90 or something like that, especially on the final. But you're talking about like for the subjects that may not have been required from the beginning, and we're like warned to where that you don't know why you never could take them, but then if they're not required, then it may be that you don't have to take them. Just that you may have heard of them, but at the same time, you're like thinking about, well, you heard it's too hard, or you heard that you didn't need it, or some sort. But at the same time, 10 seconds seems like too soon of a time really to get through a number of questions, such as it's like for who what's the Speaker of the House supposed to do? Is like who is the congressman of this time, and as well as for 3 basic rights. And then thinking about is like other questions, and they would more likely ask you about the state of amendment, for the constitutional bill or something like that. 10 seconds to respond, or somebody else knows it. So I just really think that they may think about it's all about testing the speed of from what you can remember. And you probably say that the drawing of the pencil right here for pencils down. After about 40 minutes. It seems like, okay, pencils down. We gone through already 100 questions, and then thinking about, yep, that's just twice the pressure on the mind. But then at the same time, it's like, hey, you're doing very well. You're studying hard, doing the best you can. Really, that's what tests are really asked for. But other than that, you're all doing great. You say for test ready, it's like I say, study well, do the best you can. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.